Build a better bug-out bag list. Compiling a bug-out bag list, or list of items for an emergency disaster kit, is deemed necessary by the top government agencies for ensuring survival in the first 72 hours of a disaster situation. Horrendous storms and floods, nuclear and biological weaponry, or riots and governmental breakdowns have become real threats to the well-being of every human being on Earth. Evacuation may be called for in the blink of an eye, so being prepared in advance is the only way to make it out of a crisis alive. In response to the need for proper preparation worldwide, Absolute Rights has published the consummate collection of information on surviving a disaster. Get Out of Dodge describes several different emergency scenarios and gives expert advice on how to handle them. The Get Out of Dodge, or GOOD system, includes a 64-page special report, along with a goodie bag workbook to hold readers accountable for following through with emergency management plans in advance. When disasters strike, basic services like electricity, running water, gas, sewage treatment, and telephones can be lost for long periods of time. You may have them restored in a few hours, or it may take days. Everything inside a bug-out bag needs to be an essential tool for managing those inconveniences. The term comes from the evacuation process, when people are forced to bug out of their homes and cities to seek shelter and safety. One of the highlights of the special report is the complete explanation of its own version of a bug-out bag. The goodie bag, or Get Out of Dodge Immediately and Efficiently bag, it's described as something that should be packed today and hopefully never used. Its main purpose is self-sufficiency, since emergency management crews may not reach a disaster area for some time after the event. Often during emergencies, people get caught so off guard that they fall into conventional instincts that, while appropriate for everyday life, could spell catastrophe. If you follow the crowds to the store for supplies, you'll be wasting valuable time and dealing with barren shelves. If you don't have an evacuation plan, you'll be stuck behind everyone else trying to get out of your city. If you don't prepare a bug-out bag with the right supplies, you'll be unnecessarily risking your life. The Get Out of Dodge special report includes an extensive checklist of goodie bag items, which could end up being the only possessions saved from a fire, flood, war, or riot. A lot of thought and time should go into a goodie bag list, which is why the special report puts such emphasis on starting now. Plus, it makes specific distinctions between the variant types of bags for different locations and situations. For instance, coastal towns should have supplies catered towards surviving floods and hurricanes, while northern and mountainous cities, with cold winters, should be prepared for blizzards or even avalanches. Knowing the particular characteristics and vulnerabilities of one area can make preparing a goodie bag. FEMA's Ready.gov site, where they help Americans prepare, plan, and stay informed, contains a page on building a kit, where the federal agency goes into its thoughts on building a bug-out bag. While it's thorough, FEMA's list doesn't take location into consideration and generalizes supplies for the average American family. On the other hand, Get Out of Dodge fully explains the thought and process behind the perfect bug-out bag list and helps individual families determine what will work best for them. A disaster can introduce scenarios that were previously incomprehensible. When an economy is as fragile as America's, its infrastructure would not be able to hold in case of crisis. The country needs to be honest with itself. The U.S. is not that far away from a drastic economic collapse. Should that happen, an ATM or credit card would be regarded as useless. There will be no way to obtain a flashlight or a raincoat or a refill on prescription medication. Traditional buying and selling would give way to bartering and looting. Suddenly, it wouldn't matter how much money was in a bank account. Instead, survival skills and preparedness would take over as the most precious commodities. Don't get caught unprepared and left to fend for yourself without the knowledge and capability of protecting your life and those of loved ones. Find a digital copy of Get Out of Dodge available for instant download and start compiling a bug-out bag list immediately by visiting www.bugoutreport.com.